You ever scroll late at night and find something that feels too good to be true? Like a deal so perfect, it almost feels like a trap? That's how it started for Daniel. He was broke, desperate, and just needed somewhere cheap to crash for a few weeks. So when he stumbled across a rental ad, room for $5 a night, clean, private, no noise after midnight, he thought he hit the jackpot. I mean, come on, $5? That's less than a cup of coffee. The pictures looked normal enough. Plain walls, tidy little bed, a nightstand, even a small lamp. The kind of bland, forgettable room you'd find in any old boarding house. The landlord? An older man with polite, clipped messages. No profile picture, no reviews, just a rule written in bold. No noise after midnight. Daniel didn't care. Cheap was cheap. But when he arrived, he noticed something off. The place smelled faintly of dust and iron. The hallways stretched longer than they should have. And when he finally met the owner, something about the man's smile felt wrong. Because the truth? That owner had been dead for 15 years. Daniel stood in the doorway of his new room, suitcase in one hand, cheap duffel bag slung over the other. It wasn't much. 4 plain walls, cream paint chipped at the corners, a narrow twin bed pushed against the far side, and a lamp with a shade that had seen better days. But it was quiet, cheap, and, most importantly, it was his. The landlord had handed him the keys without much fuss. A tall man, maybe in his 60s, with slicked back gray hair and eyes that seemed just a little too sharp. He didn't shake Daniel's hand, didn't even really welcome him. Just pressed the brass key into his palm and repeated the same words he had texted before. No noise after midnight. At first, Daniel laughed it off. Who even made rules like that? He figured it was just some cranky old guy wanting peace and quiet. He could live with that. He wasn't planning on hosting parties anyway. That first night, though, something felt strange. Around 11:30, as he sat scrolling on his phone, the air in the room seemed to shift. The hum of the old ceiling fan grew louder, as if struggling against an invisible weight. The shadows on the walls stretched unnaturally long, bending with the fan's lazy spin. Daniel brushed it off as exhaustion, plugged his phone in, and lay down. Then, just after midnight, came the sound. Not loud, not violent, just deliberate. A faint dragging, like something heavy being pulled across the floor above him. But Daniel had checked earlier. There wasn't supposed to be an upstairs. The boarding house was one level. He froze, staring at the ceiling, every hair on his arms rising. The dragging went on for a few minutes, then stopped. He convinced himself it was plumbing. Or maybe rats. Anything but what his imagination was conjuring. He pulled the blanket up and forced himself to sleep. The second night, the rule made a little more sense. This time, he was brushing his teeth when he noticed the mirror. His reflection looked normal, tired, dark circles under his eyes, but there was something off about the background. The door in the reflection wasn't closed, though the actual door behind him clearly was. Shaky breath. And worse, someone was standing just past it. A tall silhouette. Still. Watching. Daniel spun around so fast he dropped his toothbrush, foam spilling across his shirt. The door was shut just like he'd left it. The room was empty. But when he turned back to the mirror, the figure was gone. That night, right at midnight, the dragging started again. This time, closer. Beneath his bed. Daniel sat up, heart pounding, trying to peer into the darkness under the frame. Nothing. Just dust and shadows. Nervous laugh. He knew he wasn't sleeping well. Maybe that explained the hallucinations. But then came the whisper. Don't make a sound. A voice, clear as day, from directly beneath him. Daniel bolted upright, fumbling with his phone to check the time. 12:01 a.m. He didn't move, didn't breathe. Slowly, the whispering stopped. The dragging faded. The silence that followed felt heavier than the noise. By morning, he told himself he imagined it. Sleep paralysis, maybe. Stress. His mind trying to mess with him. Yawn. But the rule echoed in his head. No noise after midnight. On the third night, Daniel considered leaving. But the rent was too good and he had nowhere else to go. He thought, maybe if he just obeyed the rule, nothing would happen. So he made sure to stay quiet. No music, no TV, not even a cough. Midnight came. Silence. And then, the knock. Not on his door. Pause. From inside his closet, 3 slow raps. Steady, patient. Daniel stared at the wooden door across the room, every muscle in his body frozen. He didn't answer. He didn't move. He just sat there, gripping the blanket like a shield. The knocking stopped. In the morning, he checked the closet. The back wall had shifted. The old wooden paneling hung slightly ajar. Behind it, faint scratch marks etched into the wood. Too many to count. Daniel closed the panel and left it alone. But each night, the noises worsened. Dragging under the bed, whispering voices, closet knocking. Sometimes footsteps outside his door, though the hallway was always empty when he checked. By the 5th night, Daniel hadn't slept more than a couple of hours. His hands shook. He still couldn't leave. Something about the room wouldn't let him go. That night, around midnight, he heard the landlord's voice. Not outside, not through the walls, from inside the room. I told you, no noise after midnight. Daniel sat up and looked around. Nothing. No one. Just the lamp's dim light. The voice was close. He didn't make a sound. By the 7th night, Daniel realized he hadn't seen the landlord again. Not since the first day. He knocked on the office door. No answer. Checked the front desk, the kitchen, the hallways. All empty. Dust covered everything. He asked a neighbor. A pale woman cracked her door open just an inch. She whispered, "There hasn't been a landlord here since 2008. Daniel said, "I just met him last week." She shook her head. "That man you saw? He's dead. Been dead for years. Died in this house." Then she shut the door. That night, Daniel packed his bags. He didn't care about the rent anymore. He just wanted out. But when he tried the front door, the key didn't fit. The lock had changed. He ran to the back exit, but the hallway stretched on endlessly. Doors multiplying, lights flickering. The house was changing to keep him inside. By 11:59, he was back in his room, holding his suitcase. Then came the whisper. Louder. From the bed, the closet, the walls. "Stay quiet, stay forever." Daniel covered his ears. He didn't scream. He remembered the rule. The clock hit 12 a.m. The dragging started again. Closer, louder, from beneath his own skin. Weeks later, the room was listed again. Same photos. Same price. Same rule. No noise after midnight. And if you look closely at the latest listing photo, you can see Daniel's reflection in the mirror. Still there, still silent.